Good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, someone wrote down for me here, insecurity and instability impede development and growth, whereas a lack of development exacerbates insecurity and conflict. That is true. I do believe that Kofi Annan was quite a bit snappier when he gave us his one-liner about no development without security and the other way around. And I'll delve a bit into that. Recent research by the African Development Bank confirms that simple truth once more. And what is important for us is that it actually quantifies its findings on how fragility, violence and conflict not only lead to disease and mass migration, but also to a massive loss in economic productivity. And earlier, of course, Paul Collier showed us statistical support for the claim that unless economic growth takes off after a conflict, the nation has almost 50% chance of falling back into conflict. Why do I stress the quantitative results and statistical support? Because quite often we tend to overlook that sort of things. I believe that scientific findings should be taken more seriously when the international community delivers assistance to countries coming out of conflict. Socio-economic recovery should be much more at the onset and deliberately be included in peace-building efforts. And too often, in my view, external interventions focus exclusively only on security or only on institution building. We've seen that recently in South Sudan. And we forget about socio-economic recovery. And then I believe, and this I learned from Rob Visser in the past, that early inclusion of the views of knowledge institutions and NGOs in policy and planning exercises can prevent us from making that mistake time and again. So this is an invitation to you all. We've started this, and let us keep up the good work. As I said, I was in South Sudan last week, which is a typical case of recurrent conflict and slow economic development, slow any development, I would say. I was there with Minister Ploemen last week, and we visited on the one hand Yei in the south, which is a part of the country that's hardly affected by the violence, but where our farmers are finding it more and more difficult to get their produce to the market and sell it at a reasonable price. And then we went to Manukau, which today is a ghost town where everybody is forced to live in protection sites. But in either place, all the people wanted was peace, education, and a chance to earn a living. And Rens Twijnstra, who I saw somewhere, he wrote a thesis about the opportunities and challenges in South Sudan. And the thesis and the presentation you gave recently at the ministry was relevant for us because it has a strong focus on everyday practices of businesses and business regulations. And also because it contains a clear critical note of the international community's lack of interest in influential local actors, local entrepreneurs who can contribute to economic development and therefore to stability. I have the feeling also, after having talked to my colleagues, the ones that already have left and the ones that are now dealing with your IS Academy and the problems that you are addressing, that these critical voices do help us reshape our policies. And you already did a very small and simple example. Within the ministry, we sometimes tend to work in silos. It's not nearly as bad as Dirk Jan described just now, but there still is this tendency to only look at our own fields of expertise. And it was actually through the work of the IS Academy that we deliberately joined up with our colleagues from the Sustainable Economic Development Department, who are much better than we are equipped to work on business development and the creation of jobs. And that resulted in a joint undertaking with IFC, the International Financial Corporation, on their first very large private sector development program for fragile states. And by the way, this was the very first time that IFC even tried to develop such a program in a conflict-sensitive way. And this all started not exclusively from the IS Academy, but it started from the meetings, the discussions and the exchanges that we had. So you do make a difference, and cross-fertilization is taking place. Now, having said all this, I would like to thank Rob Visser, the partner NGOs, and Thea Hilhorst, and her collaborators for all the work done since 2008. I'd like to applaud everyone involved, but also remind you that the joint work does not stop here. The natural successor of the IS Academy, I said it already, is the knowledge platform on security and rule of law, and the IS Academy's research already is being shared there. So even though the Academy will come to an end, I'm happy that the work will continue. I'm looking forward to meeting you either in our platform or elsewhere. And I thank you very much for your attention.